It's fun.
All right. We are live here with this Educators Drinking Coffee with Dr. Edmonds. Good morning, Dr. Edmonds.
Good morning.
Good. Thank you for joining us this morning. As this is called Educators Drinking Coffee, I got my coffee here.
And I've got my coffee.
Good, good. Do you have any preference to the type of coffee or drink in the morning?
Yeah, so coffee is definitely my drink of choice in the mornings, and I typically like a between a medium and dark roast. So yeah, Colombian, closer to dark roast. Yes.
Gotcha. Well, I am definitely biased with the Colombian coffee, of course, as you may know. But I prefer more of a light to medium roast. I'm not a dark roast kind of coffee. When it comes to a brewed coffee, I like it black. When it comes to like instant coffee, that from time to time, I do like that with a little bit of cream and sugar. I don't know why, but it's just the way it kind of works. But anyways, well, good. Yeah, I try to have just about 1 cup in the morning, and Colombians will typically drink one when they wake up before breakfast, one mid-morning, and one late in the afternoon. So
yeah, so I have when I visited Moldova, because of the issue with electricity and the cost, it's more effective to have instant coffee. And I've never been an instant coffee drinker, but when I visited Moldova and tasted the instant coffee there, needless to say, I purchased several jars. So I have my Moldovan coffee at times when I don't have time to brew and I want something quick, and I like that as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. I actually had the opportunity, guys, this is about 3 years ago, to go to Colombia, and I went to the coffee region and to do a coffee tour, and learned quite a bit. I didn't realize that it takes about 2 years from the moment they plant a seed to the moment it gets to your cup. At least Colombian coffee. Yeah, me neither. So we have a couple people here. One of our social workers, Ms. Hudima, says good morning to us. And then one of our students says they like French roast with lots of sugar. So good to hear from her. And my mom, she always kind of logs in and says hi to me every Wednesday away for her to see me. So
hi, Mom.
So just wanted to talk a little bit about, I was like starting a little bit from the past. So I want to say, I think you were a math teacher. Is that correct when you were a teacher?
Yes. High school math.
High school math. Okay, cool. And now I did find out is it from Oxford, North Carolina?
Yes, I grew up in Oxford, and that's Granville County.
Granville County. That's actually, I had the pleasure of being part of, I think ECPPS Policy Fellows, Education Policy Fellows. There was always a lot of people from Granville. At least it seemed that way for anybody I talked to. Good group of people.
Yeah, a lot of great educators have come out of Granville County. Mike Ward, Janice Davis. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah.
Good people there. So I was like saying, what kind of led you to where you're at now, from being a math teacher at the time to now, being superintendent?
Yeah. So becoming a high school math teacher, I have to tell that story before I move to why I'm where I am now. When I was in elementary school in 8th grade, I always liked math up to that point, and I was in Algebra 1 in 8th grade, which means, I'm an accelerated student. And I sat in the back of the classroom and couldn't see the board, and I asked my parents, and neither of my parents are college graduates. My dad has a 6th grade education. He had to quit school and work because his father passed away, and so he then had to provide for the family. And my mom is a retired hairstylist and seamstress. And so their thing was that the school knows what you need. Go to school. Your teacher will put you where you need to be. You just go to school and you're quiet. And so I didn't say anything, and the teacher didn't ask me why was I in Algebra 1 in 8th grade and not doing well. And I failed Algebra 1 because I could not see the board. So I went on to ninth grade, and because I didn't do well in Algebra 1 in eighth grade, I had to take Algebra 1A and Algebra 1B. Well, in Algebra 1A, I sat in the front of the class, did well. Teacher was like, why are you here? But no one did anything about it. So I stayed in Algebra 1A, and that was it. It was not until I was in Algebra 1B with Catherine Oakley, my high school math teacher, who said, you're gonna have to double up on math. You're too smart. You should be in two math classes. She took me on to a math competition in Raleigh, and I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I don't do well in math. She said, yes, you do. I'm sure I did horrible at the contest, but at the competition, but she said she built my confidence up. And my assistant principal at the time said, you need to go to A&T. So needless to say, I graduated from A&T, which is a top engineering school, with a math degree. And I took a lot of classes with engineers. And so they were always trying to push me to be an engineer. And I was like, no, no, no. I wanted to make an impact on students' lives the way that an impact was made on my life. Because until Catherine Oakley, I didn't always feel like I fit in the school setting that my teachers really saw me. And so as a high school math teacher, I taught from Algebra 1 inclusion to AP calculus. And we loved all of it. In 1 year, they gave me all of the upper level courses, which I enjoyed. I would take my students to engineering firms, my calculus students, so they could see it in the real world. We would connect with the city in my algebra class, and we're talking about slope. But 1 year, they thought it was a great idea to take away my Algebra 1 inclusion classes and only give me the upper levels. And I was like, no. I said, that's where I have my most impact. And that's where those students that, to me, felt like students like me, that needed that extra support. And I felt like I did very well with them. And so that kind of sparked me to this journey of advocating for students who don't always have a voice, and advocating for parents who don't always feel like they have a voice. Like my parents left it to the school to ensure that I got a great education because they had to work. And so sometimes we make judgment on parents to say, oh, if they don't come to parent conference, then they don't care. My parents cared. They cared about me. They were like leaders in our community. And my community was not one that most people would come to. I never saw educators in my community. So I make it a point as a superintendent, when I was a principal, in all the positions I've had, is that I make sure I go into the community where our students live. I like to walk around, and I call it my my listening tour. Of course, the pandemic cut that short this year, but it's those types of things that impacted me as a student growing up that really pushed my thinking and how I approach the work now.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's kind of, it's weird, as you and I have had different paths, but it seems very somewhat similar in the sense that, my parents still don't speak a whole lot of English. So when it came to schooling, like you said, they said they're the professionals. We leave it up to them, and they expected for teachers to do their job. But it was really for me to take it to the next level, and their expectations was, you're going to go to college. They didn't know exactly how that was going to happen, but that's just what it always kind of just instilled in my head, and I kind of had to figure it out. But the support was always there. No matter anything I needed, they got for us. So I appreciate that, and that's good. And you brought up one other thing about advocating for those who sometimes don't have the support, and that is so important. And I think that is something that also has driven me to get to where I'm at this point, is because there's those silent voices that need to be heard, and I think it's our job, our duty as educators, no matter what level you're in, is to try to advocate for those silent voices. So I appreciate that, and it definitely is seen in decisions and how you kind of conduct yourself. So I appreciate that. The next thing, one thing I've learned about this, and at one point I was principal. I've always realized that as we get higher up, it's a lonelier position. So here I have another colleague at my level, which we can talk and share. As principals, you have other principals in the county, but you're the only superintendent. So who do you look for advice, support, when it comes to, especially in the times that we're in right now?
Yeah, and you're so right that when the higher up you go in education, you feel like that you're alone. And I always try to create that sense of community, but people are still like, but you're the superintendent, and we can't talk to you. You're the superintendent. And
Yeah.
I did not realize early on like what that meant for staff when I come into the classrooms or when I come into a building, because I'm like, no, I'm just staff. And they're like, no, you're the superintendent. And so I have to be very thoughtful about how I approach the work. So with that said, I do have my colleagues, the superintendents that are this region, and I was actually on a meeting with them this morning prior to this meeting, but we meet as regional superintendents, and then I sit on the executive board for superintendents across the state, and there are about 16 of us, so I get to see that statewide perspective. And we have conversations like what's going on in your district, how you're addressing this or how you're approaching this. But I also have my mentors, and I have great mentors who've been in this work. Some are retired superintendents, and they are retired superintendents who are doing interim positions during a pandemic. So they have that lens of what it looked like prior pandemic. And now they have the lens of now I'm serving in an interim role and stepping into a district for the first time during the pandemic. So I call on my mentors quite often, and they answer my calls even at 5 o'clock in the morning. So yes, mentors are important.
Good. Yeah, it is true. And it goes for anybody, no matter what position, beginning teacher, veteran teacher. You need to have those people you can always kind of know that you can call, as they say, phone a friend or something.
Yes.
So along those routes, I also, one of the things you have stressed even since last year is really about taking care of ourselves. Last year, I'll tell you quickly, I started this, educators drinking coffee during the spring because my days were just being so long and I needed to have a routine. That's one of the biggest things I missed, from the spring. And I haven't shared this with a whole lot of people, but I got depressed probably around March or April, just because it's too much time to think. It almost felt that way. So I started creating this routine, getting up in the mornings, doing some exercise, and I was doing this. And then now that the year has started up and things have kind of gotten under a little bit more routine, I started as educators drinking coffee this year. But what do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah, so one, I think it's very important, and I'll share a personal story in a second, but what I do now is, I can't say I have stuck to it every morning, but I try to get up and exercise every morning and try to take that morning time for myself. But now that the days are getting longer, like I said, I had a meeting prior to this meeting, so sometimes my mornings start at 7 and they may not end until 8 or 9 at night. So sometimes that makes it a little difficult, but I do understand the importance of self-care. And also I have my grandson here. So anytime I see that little face, 4-month-old grandson, it just changes my perspective on what a bad day is. But I think it's important that we ensure, or sometimes I think the principals, almost like I have to force them to take some time of reflection and self-care. Prior to being a superintendent, I worked at the state level with district and school transformation, so turning around low-performing schools, the Leandro case. And I was the person that led the team of 19 state people that were in Halifax every day from 2008 until 2012. And those were the times where we were going to court with Judge Manning. And so I have a deep personal understanding of Leandro. You're smiling when I say Judge Manning. Everyone who knows Judge Manning, they smile when you have to have that intimate relationship with Judge Manning, that you're in his court and working with the Attorney General's office. But during that time, my son, who's now grown, married, have a grandson, he was in middle school and high school. And there were several things that happened. Because I was working 24 hours a day, it felt like 7 days a week, nonstop. I was stressed and didn't really know it because I was just going. and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the doctor said to me, we don't know how you know, got breast cancer, but we can help you. And the one thing that they pinpointed was stress, that you got to learn how not to be so stressed. You know, at the end of the day, stress is hard on your body. And so my son, senior year of high school, was watching his mom fight breast cancer. So chemotherapy and all of that. And so I've been a high school principal and I know how it's just a nonstop. And everyone doesn't understand. They think that, oh, the principal only does this or the principal only does that. And we know it is a 24-hour day, 7-day a week job. And now, you know, being the superintendent of a district, being in a position where I can support principals and help them better support teachers, because our teachers are stressed. And, you know, you see the media out there saying, oh, they're not doing anything. And teachers do not get into this business because they don't have a heart for children. And they're doing everything they can. And I see those 2:00 in the morning emails where teachers are responding to parents. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And that's why last year in the spring, we said on Fridays, we're going to have a time where students are doing independent type of work so that teachers have a chance to catch up with the week. So they're not spending their weekends planning for the next week. Because there again, you have that 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, not turning it off. And what I found, even on those Fridays, I would have teachers that would ask, if my parents reach out to me, can I still email them? Can I still talk to my students? They didn't want the time. And I'm like, sure, but you've got to find some time to take a break because it won't be good for anyone.
It is, and it's super hard to, and I think because we are so conditioned to a routine, and nowadays it's definitely a little harder, and it's hard to shut it off. And I think in part, and this is one part that I feel bad, but I really appreciate is those phone calls late at night, those emails. To me, and that's the kind of people we want in our buildings. But at the same time, we want them to make sure they take care of themselves. So, and then just one last thing I wanted to kind of wrap up because I know I got to start getting ready to do some observations, but just if there's anything you wanted to kind of just share as far as anything happening with the district, with staff, with parents, with students.
Yeah. So one thing is I'm very proud of the opportunity for our child nutrition workers and our child nutrition department to continue with our feeding program as we had in the spring and over the summer. Our Board of Education really had to advocate for that to continue because it would have stopped on August 31st. But at the 9th hour, we got the waiver, the state received the waiver from the Department of Agriculture to continue with our child nutrition program as it is now. Our Board of Education will be doing a tour of some of the elementary schools this Friday. I'm sure everyone heard the governor's announcement saying that lifting some of the restrictions in terms of face-to-face instruction for students. And so the Board of Education will meet on September 28th to make some determination about how do we move forward for second semester. Second 9 weeks. And so those are some things that are there. But if anyone hasn't seen our technology page, we do have technology support out there for our families. And we have a live chat feature. So if you haven't seen that, go to our district website and you can get some support with that. But I mean, there's just so many things that are going on, and we're trying really hard to support our families, our students, our staffs as best as possible during this time. And I just want to say thank you. I cannot thank our staff, our teachers, our administrators, bus drivers, our child nutrition workers, our students, our families, the community. And I know it's difficult for everyone, and sometimes we're on the receiving end of frustration. But I know, and I've seen that during this time, we've also pulled together to make good things happen for students. So I get it. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for their support of Elizabeth City Public Schools.
No, and thank you for leading. I mean, it really it feels like a big family really trying to tackle this whole situation. So I do want to thank you, Ms. Warden. Thank you for stopping by. We had a few people. I think Ms. Moore, principal over there at ECMS, Mr. Sutton, and a few others here. So thank you again, Dr. Edmonds. I know you're super busy. I appreciate you taking some time this morning. I want to also let people know next week Ms. Warden is going to join me, one of our vice chair from the board. So look forward to that. And she was one of the originals here at Pasquotank County High School. So I definitely want to hear, how things were back then and get her perspective as a board member. So excellent. So thank you again, Dr. Edmonds. Thank you all for joining us for Educators Drinking Coffee. And I will see you all next Wednesday with Ms. Sharon Warden. Thank you, Dr. Edmonds.
And thank you for the invitation.
Bye-bye.